GZ has been weighed, measured, and found wanting as Bliss break the streak. They take down the undefeated Titans and secure their first win against this team. Team Bliss looked so damn good here, Tally.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw, just an overall really good team play from Bliss this early game, even though we saw Ground Zero trying to fight back, trying to do stuff in the early game. I just think it's the difference in comps that it really came down to. The Leona being able to move and interact with that AP jungler is going to do so much more than the Braum. Correct can match the moves out of Alidoric, but this Braum doesn't really do anything in these skirmishes, in the early game without those AD carries, and they don't really want to participate in these fights.
Yeah, I think the big thing there is that GZ just lost the early game quite hard, and this team really needs to get that snowballing effect, especially with Shernfire on the Fiddlesticks. That is your main source of engage alongside the Ash Arrow, so it's sort of like Team Bliss just played it so well, grouped up early and said, hey, we're just going to win by defeating you that hard, Skimmy. And I think Team Bliss was quite convincing, but it begs the question, what does GZ do to counteract this?
Well, I'm quite curious now as to really how Ground Zero want to approach Game 2. If they feel as if the priority of their existing picks needs to just change a little bit, or if they say, you know what, a whole new game plan needs to come out. You finally forced us to play something different, in which case they completely change it up, right? Because they'll still have the option, blue or red side. You'd imagine blue side won once again. But it just felt like Bliss had planted a bit of a trap. We know we want to target, we want to make both Fido and Shernfire as uncomfortable as possible. He got put into the Fiddlesticks, and it just didn't seem like a champion that at 1-5, 1-6 could still find a way to come back.
Yeah, and it just felt like they really had no answer for this team comp because the Ezreal, we've seen it time and time again, do so much damage, and even here, 23.7k, but the gold just started to dip and dive as it was just more and more for Team Bliss. But again, just consistently more damage across the board, and I think Bliss finally, having spent the weekend reviewing, reflecting, and taking a second to just sit back and say, no, we can draft these guys out. They can put them on their comfort. You can get Fido back on the Corki, but that's okay. We'll give Harry the Yone, and it is GG, Tally.
Yeah, and I think that it was just a really good prep by Bliss. We saw the Tristana and the Akshan being removed straight away. So all of a sudden, when that Corki is locked in, you can't really skirmish around this matchup in the mid lane. Corki and Yone is always going to be very favored to the Yone in these skirmishes, and the fact that Ground Zero don't have priority in the mid or the top lane, and we see a lot of their games really come down to the fact that Shernfire can invade these camps over and over again and create leads. But this comp from Ground Zero, I would say, was quite greedy, because if they, if they really just exist, if they can create a scenario where they are 0-0-0 for 25 minutes, they will start to win the game. But of course, that's not going to happen. It's a competitive game. Stuff happens, and Alidoric moving all over the map, making these fights happen, is what really snowballed this game for them. And they just had more, proactivity throughout the game. And I think that really just came down to the draft they had.
I think the big turning point that I noticed in that game was when Alidoric shut Shernfire out at the Dragon Pit. Literally jumped over the wall, predicted where he was, literally said, mate, you are not allowed to join this fight. And then you just see an awesome Fate Sealed, you see the Gnar coming out, and they just absolutely blew them up. And it was sort of just like, Shernfire, how do you get here when they're just going to lock you out so hard? And not only that, they locked him out of champions too, and pretty sure they banned the Karthus on themselves, which, Tally, forgive me if I'm wrong, might have been a better pick than the Fiddlesticks here.
I like Fiddle. I think that Fiddle was probably better for them in that game. I think if they were Karthus or Zyra, the same thing happens. Well, the Zyra is nice because you do have, some way of dealing with the dive. I just think that, at least they had some form of engage, because when we look at the Ground Zero comp, they had no way to play the game besides an Ash Arrow landing and that Crow Storm coming out of Shernfire. If they did have, the Karthus or the Zyra, it's quite a same scenario where, if they fall behind, they have no tools to play the game besides Lemus with the arrow. And I think we're probably going to see, if they do run it back on that blue side again, hopefully, more pride in that mid lane, or just more agency over the map to be able to skirmish.
Well, you mentioned which side they're going to be picking. We do have GZ picking up the side. If we can have a look at side selection, it is, again, Tally, blue side. Like you said, break it down a little bit more for us. They're probably going to get something, a little bit more agency in mid lane.
Yeah, I think it's it's really easy to read as, the side of Ground Zero, what went wrong there. And it was just the fact that they just had no lane to play around. They had no agency in their comp. They just really are used to, getting through lane phase, coasting through, getting to those team fights and winning with just, superior gameplay. But this time they got exposed. They could not skirmish the enemy team. They could not contest these objectives, and they were still trying to do that down numbers. And I just think that goes to show that Ground Zero, might suffer from playing from behind, and we haven't really seen them down gold this entire season. So this is a new look for them.
Well, Skimmy, is there anything you change about this draft in particular? Would you like to see something switched up a little bit?
Well, look, if the bands stay the same from either side, I still imagine you're going to go for a Corki first pick, but you just need a little bit more aggression elsewhere, right? I think the fact that the Cassante came out, I'm sure that Bliss and Bio was actually quite happy, thinking they had that series up against Antic, like, oh, no longer do I need to go, like a Jax or something against Cassante to try and match it in a split push. I can just go the Gnar, be even tankier, still offer that same major AoE threat. And it linked up beautifully, right, with the Yone and Leona as well. So, I mean, yeah, for me, it was a case of we got enough aggression, we had those dire threats that we can really bully out the game. So I think for Grand Zero, yeah, you probably are still going to go with the Corki, but I think the rest of the draft is where you'd make those adaptations.
Well, what do you think as well, Tally? I think the Yone was a really good answer to the Corki, and we've usually seen it banned out on Harry. Do you expect to see that banned out again?
I think that the bans they have, I think the Orianna is a flex ban, so we'll probably see that one drop because, if Harry does play that matchup, at least, it's still going to be quite tough for the Corki in the 1v1, but at least they have some agency around the mid lane, right? It's not, so one-sided when it comes to those skirmishes. So probably going to see the Yone hit the, the fence for the side of Bliss and the fact that the Ori's probably going to come in replacement or another 80 pick that they prepared. Because we heard Aldor talk about how they have much better preparation this time, so I'm curious to see if something like the Diana Yasuo might come out of the side of Bliss.
Well, yeah, let's just run it back again as Twitch votes are available. It's time to put them in and support your team. I, funnily enough, just lost all of mine as I put it all into Ground Zero. I said I'd save it. Yeah, look, a little tear is going to run down my cheek later on, but they can run it back. So make sure you get those points in, support these teams, because right now I've already lost my prediction. The upsets happened. That's okay. I'll have a second tier for that later on. But get yours in. Make sure you're supporting those teams too. But you guys are looking pretty good. You guys must be chuffed.
Well, look, I mean, if it's off on our predictions rather, me and Tally are just expecting now that Grand Zero will come out and say, how dare you beat us? How dare you interrupt our perfect split? Now we just win 3 games back to back to back, and then you sail out into the night, and the LCO is done.
And then it moves on to PCS, and more League will be had. But no, before we even get to that, we still got more games to get through. Let's go to a short break as we prep for the next game coming up. Game 2, Ground Zero versus Team Bliss. You do not want to leave your seat. We'll see you there.
Kevy's up, that becomes the Varus. Falls down on the stopwatch, it's carnage! Only triple happening here is for Python. Oh, it's do or die! And welcome back to the grand final here as it's Team Bliss up against Grand Zero, and now Tally, finally, it feels like in a weird turn of events, finally we've seen Grand Zero lose a game. We get into a little bit of unfamiliar territory. What do they do? How do they bounce back? And, you know, what are some of these crazy picks that we've been hoping to wait and see?
And I want to know how, you know, Ground Zero reacts to that kind of game because, you know, as a player, you know, experiencing that kind of game is the worst. You know, you have no agency, you're trying to play the game, but everywhere you go, you're outnumbered, you have no engage, you just lose from pretty much, you know, minute 0 to, you know, what they survived for their Nexus explosion. But they're running it back with the same band, Skimmy, and we're seeing it the same from the enemy side, but all of a sudden, different priority on that first pick. They want the agency, they want the Leona.
Wow, I didn't think we'd see this, right? The case of Corki being so strong. They said, you know what? No, we need a better support. We must deny the Leona, and Bliss wastes no time whatsoever saying, well, if you don't take it, we'll snatch them up instead.
Now, the curious thing is, so with Bliss's draft, they have, you know, these 2 range carries, right? So they do not need to draft this, you know, engage. They need to draft this agency. They can, you know, go for the Braum. They can go for stuff like the Shen, you know, these answers to deal with the Leona, you know, in the bot lane as this dive champion. And they still can operate in these team fights, in these skirmishes, because they have the range advantage that we're going to see. But this is a new look for Ground Zero. I think this might have to go towards the mid lane though, Skinny, because if they do want to have that AD mid laner, Vital's pool has been pinched quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely taking a note out of Ray's back pocket, right? Where, you know, if all these AD carries get removed, what's my next de facto option? And Lucian certainly fits the bill. Pick up the Zyra. And Shunfire says, I've been spamming this champion, but I wanted to make the games maybe a little bit harder for myself, so I've been playing these other options instead. But they've got themselves a much stronger first 3 this time.
Yeah, just this is probably like Ground Zero's, you know, comfort, melee support, and Shunfire on the Zyra. This is probably one of the best Zyra players in our league. So I'm curious to see what he really does this game. And Bliss have just gone with the response. We finally get to see Bliss match up the style of Ground Zero. We saw it happen that one time with the, you know, the Nidalee versus Brand in the regular season and how well that looked for Bliss in the early game. But they did fall down in that game because they had a very, you know, one-dimensional draft. It was a full AP comp, and this time a lot more spread damage. Heavy on the solo AP card. This, you know, there's going to be lots of farming, Skimmy, but these lanes are what is, you know, what I'm really curious about.
Me too, because we're going to get a Caitlyn ban come out of Team Bliss, which is a champion we have not seen in a very long while. Was played by Violet, was what he got a pentakill on during the regular season, but it's never been seen there since. They're going to combine that with a Misfortune ban, whereas for Grand Zero, they're going to almost adapt what we saw during the Antics series, right? Must ban away this Alistar. Far too strong in Eldoric's hands.
So they're quite happy to give the Ashe over again. I think that in this matchup particularly, you know, the Hawk shots don't really get that, you know, the ideal value one, right? You want to have it for those, you know, skirmishing junglers, those engaging junglers who can spot out the enemy and then, you know, skip camps, invade, and punish that. But this time, just going to be those mage junglers up against each other again. Lots of farming and, you know, trying to find those respawn on the camps. But as I mentioned before, they do not need to go for the engage this time on the side of Bliss because they have the range advantage. So the Braum locked in, and then in response, Lemus wants a lot more agency. He wants a lot more carry power to the Zeri for himself.
He said he does. He wants to be a hypermobile AD carry that's going to scale like you would not believe it and say, you know what, you can keep pace with me as the Ezreal, but I know if we hit 3 items, you're in a lot of trouble. And maybe it is a case of, you know what, go back to that Camille, a champion that nobody seemed to be able to beat, especially when Tien was piloting it. He's going to think for a hot minute, and he will decide to go for it in the end. So it's going to be a solo engage from Leona, a Camille to flank, and a Renekton to look to punish.
Yeah, not going to be the Jax this time. We saw that matchup last time. Bio did pretty well in the laning phase, but fell down the side lane once, and all of a sudden, you know, Tien felt so comfortable and the complete took over that game. So the Renekton as that 5P, the answer to the Camille, the Wak in the top lane, and a very, very good answer to the champion in particular. So I think this is a nice front line for the side of Bliss. This is a nice, you know, lane of agency for the side of Bliss, and I just think we're going to see much more balanced comps this time from Ground Zero, as you know, Bliss running back pretty much the same comp they had last game. Less agency in the mid lane when it comes to the skirmishing power, but you know, in the 1v1s, Corki is still a great laner.
Certainly is, right? It's going to be a battle between 2 AD carries and as to who can get more control. We certainly know that Lucian loves to be aggressive, but a Corki can, with the right skill shots, look to answer back and maybe invite a little bit of extra pressure towards that mid lane again. Obviously, though, with a Karthus, wants to farm up, wants to stay in the jungle as much as they can. It does put the burden back on towards Shernfire to say, all right, you've now got the Zyra. What does yours look like in comparison? Because it's been such a long time since he's last played it.
Yeah, and I'm also curious to what it looks like because we have not seen Shern on his, Apex picks in a very long time, right? He's played the brand, but that was after the nerfs. He hasn't really... He played the Carthage, that was also after the nerfs. Zyra hasn't been touched yet, so this champion is what we would consider the Apex when it comes to the AP junglers in terms of efficiency, but curious to see what this game dynamic looks like, because if they do fall behind, at least this time they have the Leona, they have the Camille, they have, some engage, they have the ability to team fight. So Ground Zero, as they were able to keep that gold lead within, a decent amount for a long time without any engage, let's see what they can really do with some agencies, Gimme.
But that's the big question here, Tally, because for Bliss, it was a case of we want to win, but also we want to do some mental damage. The fashion in which they stomped that game one really is looking to try and set the tone of this series. And Ground Zero say, you know what, we don't want that bit of doubt to start to creep in. Back to our best champions. Let's get back to winning ways.
Yeah, and I think we saw, last series, the power of Aldork and Kev. This game, they are playing the Carthus Braum, so they don't really want to link up. They do want to have, those 3-mans to the 2-mans. They want to have, either the Ezreal, the Corki, or the Renekton participate in those skirmishes to really, enable those concussive blows. And CCing up these champions really enables a lot of the damage that comes out of Bliss because they are skill shot heavy, and it's so important that they do lock down these members. And if Kurak goes in once, falls over, it's just going to be, a snowball effect of all of a sudden, he's not fed. And when he does get caught out, he will start to fall down.
Well, that is my major concern about this comp for Ground Zero, right? Is it has a lot of damage, but it could be incredibly squishy if they fall behind for a second time. Nice ward is going to spot out the invade that Bliss are going for. And it gives ample time then for Schönfire to set up some vision with his own plants, wrap around, and look to be safe in the end. And we've seen this throughout the playoffs, right? A team that has a Braum and a Carthus, they want to level 1.
Yeah, and this is Ground Zero getting punished for the, quite a greedy level 1. The Zeri, not a strong champ level 1. Zyra, not a strong champ level 1. Where you look at the enemy team, Carthus, Ezreal, Braum, probably, the level, respected strongest champs in their individual roles at level 1. So nice to see that Bliss are using the aggression early, but Flash coming out of Aldoric.
Yeah, very aggressive flash there just to try and punish Limus, who just hits him with the high five or the thumbs up rather than saying, I'm not quite sure about that one. You can understand to a degree that he wants to hit the stun, but I'm sure Violet had much better things in mind. Let me just hit these waves under tower, man.
Yeah, this is just a good read by Ground Zero. They go to the wave straight away. They recognize, we cannot fight this level 1. So they push that wave in. Now all of a sudden they can walk back. They can check their jungle. But it's all gone, Skimmy. Kevy's already stolen away everything. And, he can contest that top side because he does have the Pride in the mid lane. He does have the Renekton in the top side. And all of a sudden, if Aldork wants to move, if there's a potential invade on the top side, it's going to be very, very hard for Schönfire to get back in this game.
That certainly is. Let's see what he can actually try and accomplish with that in mind. Having taken the top half of his jungle, he's going to go across and look for the enemy red. Meanwhile, more aggression in the bot lane. Shield goes up, denying a little bit of that Zeri poke, but the Zenith Blade is fantastic onto Violet. Buffers up nicely with the Arcane Shield, but Aldork having already burnt that flash is just simply dead. And Violet's going to try and answer back, but all he can pick up is a consolation prize. No, not even that, Tally denied his Kurak. He always refuses to die, and that's the perfect first blood here for Ground Zero.
And he snuck into the bush, but he does show himself, Skimmy. So this was the trade. They didn't want to deny Schönfire those topside camps. They just split the map, but all of a sudden, the lane who should really be suffering in the split map conditions is, doing so well, and they're winning. And this is also Fido, pushing his advantage in the lane, does have that cookie advantage, so does have some health to himself, but Kevy's finally coming down the bot side. Limus has that barrier still. Let's see if they do want to, potentially play for a dive here.
Bot lane is so scary right now. Not a single summoner is there. Only a cleanse and a barrier. But how much success can they be used for? Limus just trying to get out some vision. Kevy biding his time, waiting for this wave to crash. Agonizingly slow though is its push, but here it comes.
Fido has TP.
The wall of pain's going to be dropped. The TP, will it be used? Now's the battle. Can you dodge these Skittles? Out comes one TP, but the heist is done yet again. They've got in, they've got out, and Fido's only got a couple of minions as the silver lining.
And this was so well played, by Ground Zero initially to find that 2v2 kill on the weak side, but I think overstaying there was such a mistake, Skimmy. They had so long to reset and just come back to lane. The wave was pushing into them. They had no reason to overstay like that. And they just, gave the advantage back to the side of Bliss, and all of a sudden, Kevy does have this lead on the first base. We'll get his base cancelled, but he's still really happy with what has happened in these first 4 minutes.
That he certainly is, right? A jungle Carthus getting a gank off and getting a kill before level 6 is simply phenomenal. And as you rightly mentioned, it's going to be frustrating for Limus to get a first blood as a Zeri, just to fall down after.
Yeah, did have the barrier, but didn't, send that summoner there. It probably didn't even matter because it doesn't have the flash. After that concussive blows does land, it is just so easy to land all that the damage onto him with that slow. So just nice by Bliss overall to bounce back from that, you know, poor early game we saw in the 2v2. But, you know, it's going to come back towards the side of Bliss, you know, with these reclears happening. Actually, no, you know, I changed with Skimmy. I think it's going to benefit Schoenfire, you know, with that invade happening and the fact that his bot lane camp spawned first. I'll hold my point, Harry does get, you know, engaged on here. With the reclear, it's going to, you know, benefit his pathing because he wants to end up on the top side of the map where the grubs are, but Kevy's top lane camps aren't going to spawn for a while, and neither are his bot lane camps.
Yeah, so it certainly does bode well for, you know, Zyra to get herself back into a strong foothold, and definitely what they're going to be relying upon, as you can see, rather, the meticulous nature between mid and bot, rotating, constantly figuring out, okay, how can we minimize any kind of losses here, both in gold and experience, and continue to keep our, you know, lane opponent up in the air, guessing, what's my matchup, who am I versing against, where do I need to play towards, what is the safe side, and where does this vision need to be planted, because that's another great ward that's going to allow Harry the protection to know that, hey, your jungle is getting ganked, but Kevy's going to instantly beeline towards it.
And here we go, we're going to have a little smite fight. Kevy does have the advantage here, so this should be going towards him, but this is still Schoenfire with the, you know, control of the map right now. We see him, he has a tiny bit of an experience lead, and if he does get these grubs, Skimmy, that will be that level 16 ding for him. It could be the fight difference on the stop side.
And it certainly could be there as both these supports continue to be incredibly aggressive in the bot lane, holding this bush like their life depends on it, saying if you face check, you will simply perish. Not enough damage to find that just yet, with ultimates only a level away. But certainly a bit of a dream for the AD carries to CS, and then choke a little bit of you know, poke from the sides when given an opportunity to do just that. Fighter don't get it going with the Carlink, flash to try and run away from that one, and Harry does survive, buys a bit of time, affords a bit of space, as Bliss then go in for the grubs.
Schoenfire really wants to contest this one, but Fighter, you know, doesn't have much matter to his name. You know, it has the cookies, but Aldoric with that rotation up means that the extra pressure secures them the 3 grubs, and Schoenfire sort of just, you know, sat around here and wasted his time because he could not find anything from, you know, hovering the mid lane. And it's just really well played by Bio overall. I'd say, you know, stacking up that wave and being in the river that entire time Tien was stuck on his tower, last hitting all those minions.
It really does beg the question then, when we talk about it, right, the lower bracket run, obviously you've been part of a whole bunch of teams that have run the gauntlet, and it was the most successful that I remember in recent LCO times, be it from Peace, right, sneaking in as the 6th seed and then running it all the way through to win. Is it actually true when they say that running those extra games on stage really can be the defining factor to allow you to figure out how do we actually beat this team that we can't all season?
I mean, stage games are a completely different beast to scrims, right? They're just a lot more efficient. You know, I'd say you learn more overall, a lot faster. And, you know, even though Bliss only had like what 3 or 4 more games than Ground Zero throughout this entire playoffs, they really do add up, and you really do figure out a lot about your team throughout these playoffs. And I think that Bliss has done a good job overall to adapt to their mistakes. And I think the main thing we're really seeing, you're not seeing a draft difference or a gameplay difference or any player stepping up. I just think we're seeing the team play really come out of Bliss, and that's what we're really worried about. But can Kevy land these Skittles?
Can he land the Skittles? He needs to land one more, but Curex too clean with it. He says, you won't kill me today. I will deny that one. Actually, you know what? I'll just hit this button. You can put the shield up, and he survives. Curex again refuses to fall over.
And he does get out of that one alive, but here comes the true shot.
Oh, so anticlimactic.
It wasn't even Dia. Got us excited.
Yeah. So, yep, Kevy's going to have to settle for his second prize, which is, I can't get the kill. I'll just get this dragon instead. And this one is one of those truly comprehensive performances, right? No trading of the objectives. We get all the grubs, and now we get the Drake too.
Yeah, and it's just really nice team play. Fighter dashing 40. It might be forced to blow the flash.
He certainly is going to be forced to burn the flash, because out comes the Ignite. 1 auto, 2 autos. Phosphorus Bomb is confirmed. I just greeted it, I suppose. Really did greet it with the Braum. As soon as he tags you up, he knows he's all in.
Alidoric is just that good, Skimmy. You know, that wasn't Fido's mistake. That's just Alidoric being him in that moment and predicting the flash there with the concussive blows. You know, going in straight away with his Q flash to predict the flash coming out of Fido, finds that tag up, and that is such a big swing for this dynamic of the game, because all of a sudden, if this one counter pick that Ground Zero had in draft starts to lose, you know, there's no real win condition for you know, Ground Zero in this lane phase anymore. They have to wait for the scaling to really kick in, and that might be too late.
Yeah, you really need to rely upon it. Those champions like the Renekton that we see in action right now up against Schoenfire, taking a straight 1v1. There is no Requiem to follow this time, and Bio does have the flash, but without any vision, decides not to follow. Not worth the risk, especially when they were already ahead.
Yeah, just Kevy calling his boys to come protect his camps. Schoenfire's already got away with everything he needed, but this is you know, what's really going to happen in this mid lane now, as we see the tabbies and the phase come forward from Harry. And the nice thing about Corki is your base damage is so high that you kind of just, you know, don't need to build damage items. You can just build these really defensive items and outmuscle your opponents. And Lucian's so important or so reliant on these auto attacks. So, you know, every single time these Ninja Tabbies reduce that auto attack damage, it really adds up in these trades. And the one nice thing about Lucian is you can dodge that Phosphorus Bomb consistently with your Relentless Pursuit, but it just really doesn't matter anymore when those Gatling, you know, the Gatling gun armor shred stacks up and these autos start to really hurt.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, especially once the Sheen is there, you're weaving it in with some Trinity Force procs, then you're really living your best life, at which point Fighter's thinking, did I do enough in the early game? And whilst it is still relatively close in that regard, it's going to balloon open even further in a second, you had to imagine, right? 100 CS, 20 difference, level advantage. And it begs the question, all right, Shern and Kurak, what is your response? How do you want to try and bail him out of this poor situation?
Yeah, well, we keep talking about how, you know, bad this looks, right? It's really not that bad in the grand scheme of things. You know, you take stock of what is happening in this game overall, and, you know, Shern already has his first item completed. He is on the clock. He is ready to fight, and we're probably going to see that happen at, you know, this next scrub, which have spawned. We see multiple members coming out from the side of both teams, grouping up, being ready to skirmish and fight around this one. But, you know, Kurak, flash ult ready. Aladoric doesn't have their own flash this time, and I think that Shernfire, with his one item in his pocket, could potentially be a bit stronger, but maybe this is really just going to come down to the fact that Renekton is way stronger in these skirmishes right now than the Camille will ever be.
Let's see what can accomplish as a result of this one, because no AD carries are getting involved in this team fight. They're both locked in bot lane, looking to try and CS as much as they can. Only 11 minutes in, so still plenty of plates for them to achieve if they can find them. But Kurak's being bullied out of the river. He's forced to flash away at that glacial fissure. Aladoric had seen blood and was prepared to strike first. Tien hunting on the side, not to be tagged up just yet. All the grubs then looking to go the way of Bliss as they get all 6 to their name. Aladoric dies, picked up by Shernfire. Tien wraps around and locks down another kill, but across goes the wall is Bio. Requiem secures that kill. And now a true shot barrage going straight through the river.
Not again.
Yet again, Kurak survives.
So, you know, Ground Zero gets the advantage in the kills there, right? But with the 6 grubs going over to the side of Bliss, Kevy is very happy with that. He's, you know, he sacked a lot of these camps to be participating around these, you know, lane states, you know, make sure he is getting his objectives, you know, does get the dragon. So all of a sudden, the experience lead that Shernfire really built up is kind of mitigated, and this is just really good by Bliss to be here first, to be set up first. You know, Kurak so many times walks in ahead of his team and he's so tanky that he just lives, but this time he's forced to flash straight away, straight out of this fight. Lands a really nice solo flare onto Kevy, which, you know, finds them this kill, but Ian has to flash in with these Hexa Ultimatum to really lock down this kill, and that is going to swing this matchup on top even more, especially since, you know, a lot of these kills are going towards the correct numbers on the side of Bliss.
Now they certainly are, and it does become a bit of a dicey situation now, because you're looking at that second dragon spawning and thinking, alright, how keen are you to try and pick this one up, Ground Zero, or do you stick to your guns and always play the map? Because despite it being only 12.5 minutes in, it is Ground Zero, actually with the gold lead still, unless... Oh no. Commiserations there to Fido. You can see, looking really frustrated in that player cam now.
Yeah, that just feels really bad. You know, last game we saw that Kurak really couldn't get anything done this Braum, right? He all the roams he was going for really weren't finding anything, but this time Aladoric on the Braum. 2 kills in the mid lane on a champion who, you know, is known for being defensive. You don't really ever find offensive options with this champion, so really, really well played by the mid jungle of Bliss, but also it feels bad for Fido falling down twice. You know, this matchup is so important for Lucian to get ahead and stay ahead, because he's just going to get out-muscled from this point going forward. But if we look at the inventory scheme, you already see the Triforce being completed for Tien, so that is so nice for the side lane dynamic of this game, because regardless of how fed Harry gets, he's never going to win this 1v1 against the Camille.
No, not at all. And I think this is really all, this is already becoming a bit of an early indication that Fido's going to be passing the baton on to Tien to say, look, you've got yourself fairly far ahead very early on. I'm going to need to rely on your late game scaling a little bit earlier than you may have anticipated, right? Because I'm having a really rough time in the mid lane. And yeah, I need to find some way out of this. And will the Dragon be their ticket back in? Do they feel a necessity to contest whilst we are dead even? Or do Bliss say, you can't get the grubs, you can't get the Dragon, what can you get?
There is a TP advantage for Bio on the top side of the map. You already see Fido legging it down to get to this objective as soon as possible, because if they want to contest this, the numbers are there for the side of Bliss, Gimme.
No flash on Violet, he could be the focus. Flash available though for Harry as they look to try and disengage away. Tien flanking on the side with attack suit to try and lock them down. Solar Flare will do that successfully. The flash away will make sure that Kevy lives for the meantime. Aladoric then gets pounced upon as the Hex Cultivatum looks to try and lock Harry underneath his own tower. Stunned, Flash survives, no Stranglethorn to connect today. And a Requiem to really make sure you are not interested in any further shenanigans. And I think the biggest winner is the fact that Bliss get the Dragon, but they keep Bio top.
Yep, absolutely. They lose one member, but they get the dragon, they get the waves in top, so they're getting experience and denying experience. They get the objective. Violet alone on the mid wave as well, getting solo experience, but we're seeing another skirmish between these mid jungle right now. Harry, no flash, no Valkyrie.
So unfortunate there for Kurek. That Zenith Blade must have landed. That's Nautilus. It lands every day of the week. What can Harry do to get himself out of this one? He's going to get stunned up in melee range and just die as a result of that one. Shutdown found by Schönfire, who has honestly been very quietly achieving and is 2-2.
Yeah, absolutely having a very good game on the Sari jungle. Harry just completely forgot about, the fact that it is a 5v5 and not a 2v2, even though he has been participating in the 2v2 in the mid lane so often. But just going to be clearing happening from both junglers, and even though Schönfire is very far ahead, the inventory difference is not really showing that, right? And that's that main thing, when we think of, these AP junglers taking over the game is when those big ticket items come through and, these champs start to really hurt in these team fights. But so far, we're not really seeing the inventory reflecting the amount of gold or the amount of experience that Schönfire has really accrued this game.
Which is always the exciting thing about early game, right? Is you can be absolutely crushing it in your 1v1, but based on just how big those breakpoints are, you might just be in an identical build, exactly as we're seeing on display here now. Lane swap's going to occur then, with the plates being gone, with the objective not there for another whole 4 minutes. Not going to deter Bliss looking to try and make their 2v2 take place here on the top side. Soliflay goes down, locks in place Violet. Alodor is the one that falls on down. It's going to be Lemus that picks him up with the assistance of his own ultimate. And this is them starting to answer back now. But out goes the True Shot Barrage. The flash pounds, dominance effect from this Renekton, who gets stuck inside Camille's cage and cannot move. Hayri will answer back. Kevy, the one to pick up the kill. And Schönfire splits this fight apart by dropping that Stranglethorns and says, look guys, this game is far from over.
How unfortunate for Kevy. I think his Requiem is almost off cooldown. Just died when that one was still on cooldown, so wasn't able to send that one. That would have been a double kill going in the pocket of the Karthus there, but they find that tiny window where that one is not off cooldown, and they finally get something on the map screen. They finally get a win. Not a trade, but an absolute win, and this is Bliss going aggressive onto Tien here. And I think what we see is that, the TP didn't come out of bio fast enough, and Grand Zero did a really good job to punish this one because Lemus is really outputting the DPS he needs to right now.
Certainly is, and it's a scary proposition because he comes out of this one. He's already got 4 kills now with the Bloodthirster activated on top of that. He knows that he just needs to survive through all of this burst. Yes, Final looks to get aggressive again. Bit of deja vu, where Alodoric is the focus one more time. The Requiem is there, however, and Final with a reckless abandon says, I need 1 kill, just something. But Harry finds his third in response. Schönfire very close to dying to Violet on the flank inside that river, and will persist for the meantime. So this will be Grand Zero yet again having to sacrifice another crucial objective.
And I don't think, Aldor feels too bad about that one, right? He did so much work there to buy so much time for his team, and if Fido didn't commit with his flash to get that last kill, that would have been a very one-sided trade for a lot of resources committed from Grand Zero. We see the teleport come forward out of Tien, and, that's really, really unfortunate here, but the engage Gimme.
The engage is huge onto Biopanth. It's going to be picked up by Kurek, but they spotted him out, taking the tower, and gotten another kill. And look, I mean, you felt like Bliss were in control of this game, but all of a sudden, it's a 4K lead for Grand Zero.
Yeah, and this is what we really see from Ground Zero. A lot of these game states feel quite even, but they always have these gold leads, and it's going to be in the pocket of Schönfire. It doesn't reflect that in the inventory. I assume he has a lot of gold in his inventory right now, and when he bases, we're going to see those big ticket items start to get completed.
It'd be terrifying if he just picks up a Leandries out of nothing, right? You'd be like, okay, well, this game is looking a little bit dicey right now. 3,000 gold, well, there you have it. He is ready for the biggest payday of them all. Tien still achieving in that side lane, working towards that second item spike of his own. There is that Leandries then in all one big purchase. Certainly a case of showing that Bliss, you think you did well, you did a good job, but it's just not enough.
And another player who has an absolute dominating lead is Lemus right now. Doesn't really have to do anything in this lane. He just farm, just scale, and he's the winner of all these skirmishes. And I really like his build where he's gone for the Bloodthirst a second. He is ahead of the clock in terms of these items, so he can go for these defensive options, still output a lot of DPS, and really mitigate the poke from the Ezreal, the Karthus ult, the poke from the Corki. So really nicely he's adapting his build to the game and, doing a really good job at adapting to the series overall, because the fact that if this Brawn blind pick starts coming out, he's recognizing that, I can just play these, scaling, no pressure picks like the Zeri, like the Jinx, and really get away with dominating the mid and late game.
And that's what you're hoping for, right? Grand Zero to showcase their pedigree, their class, the reason why they were first and so untouchable for this entire season, right? And, those adaptations in the build certainly speak volumes for that. Lemus then Hot as the focus is the one looking to engage in a 1v2, but Harry's damage output is simply astounding. And is that a lethal? Is that enough? Barry gets popped, and that denies the Requiem.
Yeah, this Karthus is just not hurting anymore, Skimmy, and I think that these fights keep going the way of Ground Zero, and it is so bad for this champ to fall behind. We do see the warm-ups being completed by Kurak though, so all my point is, Via just wants to go in for this 1v3.
That he certainly does want to go in for the 1v3. Contest both Tien and Shern. Fire dies as a result of that. One locked inside Camille's ult yet again. Kurak finds an opportunity to dance on through. Cleanse and Flash being burnt by Ezreal. As Violet tries to ice skate from the back line, but Lima's right in their face, jumps on them, and says, look, the fight ends when I say it fights, but if Ground Zero don't find an instant one-shot, they're the ones forced to back away, and this is complete chaos.
Yeah,
with the Dragon already down.
This game has just absolutely taken a turn. We thought it was going to be much slower. We saw the first game. It was more methodical, very thought out by Bliss, but Ground Zero, this team who never takes the foot off the pedal, are just attacking everywhere. They take objectives and they send members to defend the outside of the map, and we see Lemus, pretty much defending his camps in a scenario where he should never be allowed to do that based on the fact they do not have mid priority, they do not have the side lane priority, but he is just so strong and he just finds himself in these scenarios and he outplays them.
Really wondering then what the game plan is for Bliss to try and figure out how do we get ourselves back into this, because it started off so strong. You thought you'd done enough to try and put this Lucian behind, but their scaling is starting to come online, and you are looking towards Harry saying, can you and Kevy combined do enough? Because we're just having to bleed so many towers now.
Yeah, it's just very, very easy for Ground Zero, especially because they have these champs who can, go over walls, be mobile, to rotate around the map and just secure these objectives. Bliss do not have the pressure of doing the Baron. It's so hard for them to take this one. And I think that Ground Zero, with the priority in 2 out of 3 lanes right now, minus the mid lane matchup in the Corki and the Lucian, it's so easy to move around, and we all know what Tien on the Camille can do, Lemus on the Zeri can do, and the fact that once again we do not see any engage coming out of the side of the comp, with Bliss having the Braum instead of something like the Nort, Leona, the Alistar. If they fall behind, it's so hard to get back into the game.
Absolutely, and I think that's the biggest tell, is the fact that they've got these 6 grubs, but we've barely seen them actually use it. They've still been getting pushed in from Ground Zero, and they've still been getting put behind where we're always answering waves. Now we've actually had to lose control of mid lane. Despite how far ahead the Corki got, we're unable to hold that one anymore. And the allure of the Baron always going to be there to taunt them, but Ground Zero can sit here all day.
And we do see those those major 2-arm power spikes come out of both carries from Bliss. So while they are down in gold, while they are down a lot in pressure, they are, they have finally come online. They finally have the damage to deal with these, the Camille when she dives and when she gets tagged up by Aldork and CC'd. So hopefully, if this objective is, started and is committed, we finally get to see this even team fight scheme. But what an ult!
What an ult from Schönfire. That really is game-ending right there. Already so early on, that's crucial. But let's see what comes of it, because the Requiem tickles them. It really isn't doing enough damage anymore. And it is all once again on the shoulders of Harry. What can he accomplish? He managed to snipe away 1 kill, remove Lemus from the equation, which is huge. Does stop the Baron. But can they do enough pressure that forces Tien to remove himself from that top lane split push?
We already see the pings from Ground Zero going onto that top lane turret, but they were just a bit too slow on the, overall map state. The Rift Herald gets summoned in base, but no one is there, Skimmy.
Not ideal.
Huh?
Not ideal whatsoever. We'll have to see really what comes of that in a second, because this, for me, just take stock of when Schönfire ults. That is the dream.
Yeah, this is a really good fight start for Ground Zero, but Lima's a bit overextended, not respecting how much damage Harry does right now. The big one and that phosphorus bomb doing so much damage with the, the mirror mana being completed, but I didn't know Rift Herald could be summoned while you're dead.
Well, there you go. You learn something new every day, Tally. Here I was thinking they need to summon it before they die. Not anymore.
I'm gonna have to find some mysterious wizard tech has happened in this game, Skimmy, but we'll see what happens. Back to the game, back to more important things. I think the game state is shifting back towards being sort of Bliss favored. It will continue to get better for Ground Zero as the game does go on. They do have scaling in pretty much every single role on their team, but Bliss is starting to come online. I think when those 2 arms start to get completed, especially for the Renekton and that 2 arms for the Karthus come through, that DPS really starts to ramp up. And a lot of the members on the side of Ground Zero are squishy, so if they do overextend, they will find themselves getting blown up.
Which is something we raised very early on into this draft, right? Is that whilst your team has an abundance of damage, what happens if you fall behind? Because you're going to be fully reliant then on Kurak soaking up all the damage as that single front line. The chaos can be caused by Tien. 200 spike there, fantastic. Camille definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with now. But this is Bipepper saying, I don't want to TP unless called upon. He feels that the Baron is falling down a little bit too quick for his liking, so he can no longer walk over, and that's enough for Ground Zero to say, we found what we're after, we now hold the TP advantage, back away.
They aren't going to send anyone to the bot lane, right? They're playing on 2 lanes. We do see the TP coming out of Tien, though, so he does have that flank on the Violet. Does he recognize this one?
That is the question. Hookshot into the back line, looking literally at his face. Flash, hookshot, it's all done.
He's
but
alive.
Kevy opens up the account by removing the kill. Violet is alive with the cleanse flash being burnt at the tail end of that one. Strangleform splits apart the chaos in the mid lane, but it doesn't knock up anybody. And Bliss get to walk away. How on earth did Ezreal live?
And Fido is the loser of that one. You know, they find such a good... What a TP from TM. What an engage from him to find Violet there before he could even react. You know, do not see that TP come out and fog a wall on those, you know, pink wards, I believe. So, really nice engage from him. And the fact that Fido tries to find the kill onto this Ezreal is, you know, so hard for him, but he feels like he's pressured to. We see the engage come out TN. This is really, really nice to catch him off guard like this. And the overall team fight looks so good for Ground Zero, but this member of Ground Zero in Fido is so low range, forced to go and try to find that 1-for-1 onto Violet, because if he does, he's done his job, and he's suddenly very happy because the rest of his team is so much stronger than his opponents, but cannot find that 1-for-1. He falls down, and a huge start for Ground Zero goes in favor of Bliss.
Yeah, it certainly does. And these are all happening at such odd times because it allows then Kevy to buffer, go back to base, match again, that'll show and fire with their items and say, look, we're keeping pace, just a fraction, but we will let you pick up this next dragon. We've done the damage in those initial two. We can bide our time to pick up that soul point, but Ground Zero will say, we actually quite like movement speed. I'm sure for Fido, for Limes, in particular, fantastic for them to try and glide as these AD carries.
Yeah, absolutely. Movement speed, you know, as we always say, very hard to quantify how gold efficient is, right? But it is one of the best stats in the game, so it's so nice to have. Especially in these games that are, you know, it's this game in particular, Skimmy, that is, everyone's moving around so much, and it is, you know, quite a different look from what you would think in a very, you know, range-heavy game. You thought it'd be a bit more slower, a lot more methodical, but what we're seeing right now is just aggression, 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 and this move speed really helps with that.
It certainly seems to be that way, right? Summoner check. Okay, do we have our flashes? We're fighting. What do they have? They don't have anything. We're flanking. It really is being spammed off cooldown. And causing both teams to really figure out, okay, this Baron is always there, but how do we actually get to it? Because Tien always wants to split push. And, you know, obviously with the double AD carry, Ground Zero can smash through this Baron in no time.
And something to touch on right here is, you know, Fido does have that TP, but he's on the top side of the map, right? There is no TP advantage for either side of the game right now in terms of who's on the bot side, but look at Bliss's inventories. We see 4 blue trinkets, so they're constantly cycling through these ones to be able to face check and find its objective. And we do see Ground Zero constantly starting its objective because they do have the Warmog support who can heal up, but this is a flash, and it might just come down to a flip, Skimmy.
This is looking like a flip. I've ever seen it right now. Big one tries to go into Schoenfire. He flashes out the safety, not to be stolen away by Kevy. He hits the Strangleform right on the Baron pit, and Solarflare laps over that one beautifully. Baron done, shutdown acquired, but it's the junglers that really made the difference on this occasion. With Bliss having the ability to run members down, Harry picks off Limus, wraps around to Bio, who takes down Kurak, and they've removed 3 Baron buffs.
I get the idea from Ground Zero, right? They want to start this objective. They do not take damage. They want to force Bliss to come into them, and that's when their comp really shines. But you see this time, they've taken so much damage. You know, they always say, do not group up on the Baron, the new Baron. You take so much damage, you fail the raid mechanics, you will lose so much health. And, you know, even though they do get this objective, they do get the smite, it doesn't matter when the rest of your team is just so low and you're going to get cleaned up by the members of Bliss. You know, look how strong Harry is, isolating out, you know, these carries from Ground Zero, and the fact that Bio, in a 1v2, wins that one himself.
That he certainly does. With Violet in his back pocket there to back him up, they say, we can just split you apart, make you scurry away, and yeah, piece by piece, remove the power that you can acquire from that buff instead. Still, it's a 5k lead that favors Ground Zero, but it's Bliss constantly being a menace, saying, you might feel strong, but we're finding answers on the fly.
Tien, gotta be careful here, no flash.
What does he do? Does he go back to base? Do Bliss bide their time? Do they wait? They say, you know what, enough is enough. You know that something's up, and we know something's up as well. You're on the menu. You're next one on the chopping block. And can you, as a Camille, 1v3? Top tier 1's gone. Wall of Pain goes out, slows him down. They lock in place with Hextech Ultimatum. He tries to hookshot the safety, but the double burn from Kevy is just too much to get through.
And look at mid lane, they still have the Baron buff on Fido, so they're quite happy to run down the mid and take this tower. You know, probably going to back up and not take the inhibitor. It's not really going to benefit them at all, you know, breaking that mid lane and giving the enemy team that free lane to farm all of a sudden. So still a trade, even though Bliss was the one who was proactive and looked for that kill, all of a sudden they have no control on the map. You know, Ground Zero can go back to that side lane, farm that one up, and, you know, with the vision they already secured from Kurak being on that objective in the mid lane, all of a sudden Ground Zero, who lost that member, have control of the map.
Then they certainly do, and whilst it might not be the biggest Baron in terms of gold achieved, they've broken open the base, and crucially, straight down the middle. Definitely going to make it a little bit easier then for them to play off that, and always gain control for the subsequent objectives, because Next dragon I look forward to in just over 60 seconds now. And Bliss would be very keen with the amount of vision. I mean, I can count at least 6 wards here, make it 7, all towards the bottom half of the map.
Yeah, a very, very red-looking map. You know, it's Christmas without the green skinny on the bottom side of the map right now. So really nice vision control for Bliss because the next objective is the dragon spawning, and they really want to deny that soul point and secure the soul point for themselves because we look at the inventory of Ground Zero now. Infinity Edge, 4 items for Lemus on this Zeri. Does not have the armor pen item, but he really doesn't need it because the enemy team is so squishy, and the only front line is, Renekton, who is just health and shield. So Lemus is absolutely online right now, does not have the flash, but you look at the other side of the map, 3 items on the Ezreal, 3.5 for Harry on the Corki, and that Death Cap being built for Kevi is such a big deal. And I think that both teams had the damage, and the execution is all that really matters for this next team fight.
Well, that's what it certainly seems like for Ground Zero. It's a case of we need to really rally behind then the Lemus and Tien show. Schönfire is causing so much chaos with him already at that Void Staff done. And these Stranglethorns have been fantastic, not only to cut off crucial areas of the map, but also just to guarantee they have time to answer back.
Oh, Fido.
Fido, I'm not sure what that was there. He's dashed into their face. Instant flash away, but he's going to be the first one to fall on. Down here, he picks it up for his 6th kill of the game. Out goes the Hextech Ultimatum. Schönfire picks up the kill and removes the Corki. Do Bliss still have enough damage left? I do not know. Schönfire on the double. Lemus untouched. The Bloodthirster shield working overtime. That was the difference. The lifesteal got him through, and they'll find the ace.
Is he a genius, Skimmy?
He's the best.
He just dashes into 4 people, but, he finds the 1-for-1. Harry commits himself to find the kill onto Fido, but the fact that he dies and trades the kill for Fido is such a win for Ground Zero because all of a sudden Lemus left uncontested when it comes to these carries. He's tanking all the Mystic shots, the Requiem from Kevi, and it doesn't matter. He just heals through all of it and outputs more DPS, and this is what we were worried about when it comes to the Ezreal in these games. You hit the 30-minute mark, you find the 4 items, and you're just outscaled.
That you certainly are. The crit chance a little bit too much to try and get through, and this is going to be the neutralizer. Tied now 1-1, and I'm sure Fido's thinking, all me guys, all me. I start off that engage, you won.
And I won't lie, Skimmy, that was, as close to a 45 as it does get when it comes to the gameplay. Fido couldn't really impact that game, but his team still pulled through massively. And if this is what the rest of the series is going to look like, I'm so excited.
I am as well. Will it be the 3-1 like we've predicted, or do Bliss still have more answers tucked away, as it'll be them to pick up side selection next game? But it's what we want. It's a grand final fit for the occasion. We're all tied up as we go to the break.